Hello. This video today I'm going to talk about the disconnect between the emotional body and the thinking body. The head and what it's usually referred to as the head and the heart, but I think of it as the head and what we carry in our emotions, what we've stored in our subconscious on an emotional level, that when we start to do this process we find it very hard to drop from head down into that centre, or I'm noticing that a lot of people are having that issue. And so I want to talk about that a bit, about what actually is going on, and hopefully how to help you to resolve that. What, in my opinion, from my experience and from speaking to other people, what I've discovered is that it's the disconnect happens when we're children, because the people that are our caregivers and the people that should be able to help us to connect to our emotional centre often can't, because they can only connect with you as much as they can connect with themselves, and a lot of people can't connect to themselves at all. And so, for them to then be able to help you to connect to your emotions is an impossibility, because we can only help somebody to the degree that we can help ourselves. And so what happens is this disconnect happens within us, where we develop a part of our mind which stops us from dropping into our emotional centre to keep us safe and to keep us being able to function. And so a part of the mind kicks in that tells us what we're allowed to feel and what we're not. And generally speaking, when we're children, what we're allowed to feel or to show is us being happy, compliant, jolly, joyful. We're not allowed to show anger, we're not allowed to show fear, we're not allowed to show our pain. We're not allowed to show our emotions that aren't considered to be acceptable to the world, even though we all have them. And so when we're acting all happy and we're being lovely, then we're congratulated from that. So it doesn't take very long for us to learn that the other emotions are not acceptable. The other ways of thinking and feeling are not acceptable. And so what we do is we squash them down inside of us. And then this part of the mind that takes over the running of the operation becomes really, really good at stopping us from being able to go there. It's like a gatekeeper that stands between the two and keeps the divide so that we can function. And this part of the mind is very frightened of everything that we've collected, because it sees it all as wrong and bad and that we shouldn't have it. And so what it does is it will do anything within its power, and it's been working up until now, and it's good at it, to keep us from being able to drop in and see the things within us that make us unhappy, the things that we've stored. It doesn't want to go there, doesn't want to look at it, doesn't want you to look at it, because it feels that if you do, that everything is just going to go to shit, and that all these things that you've been denying all of your life will come up and they will break you, or they will break the operation. But what happens is all this stuff festers inside, which causes anxiety and bad feelings, and can erupt in all sorts of ways. It's like our anger can erupt out of us. You see people that they erupt in an angry way, and then this part takes them over, and then it goes away, and then they can't understand what happened or why they did it or why they acted in that way, because it's then been squashed back down again. And so then another part of the mind that isn't angry takes over and is shamed and feels bad about what's just happened. And as long as we stay in a position where we don't look at that and we don't drop into it and see what we're holding, we're always going to have this disconnect within our minds and within our consciousness, because anything that hasn't been looked at and understood is going to just keep coming back and terrorising you. But the difficult thing is getting the part of the mind that works as a gatekeeper to let go of the reins. And it finds it very difficult to do that, because it's been trained. It was made for that purpose. We all have it. We all have one of these parts of us. Nobody is without it. It's just that some of us, they're taught they're more highly charged than others, or they're more alert than others because there was more stuff. I've spoken to people that can say things like, well, I didn't have a bad childhood. My parents weren't unkind to me, or they can't actually put, they can't say, well, this terrible thing happened to me. But what you find when you dig deeper is actually what they just were not emotionally met. And so all of their emotions were squashed down inside and never looked at and never accepted. And when we're children, we feel things, and we go and we try to express them. And when they're not met, or they're met with anger, that was my experience of childhood. Was I was quite an emotional person, always have been, and I was told when oh God, what's the matter with you now? Why are you so dramatic? I was met with that kind of reaction, which then shamed me into feeling that I shouldn't have those emotions. And so then I wanted to hide them, which was difficult for me because I was a very emotional child, and things hurt my feelings very easily, and any kind of misjustice really hurt me. And, but I felt ashamed of having that, and learnt to squash it around the people that I knew wouldn't want to see it. And then you learn to squash it in a way that the disconnect happens completely, because the mind will not allow that dropping into the feeling centre at all. It comes up with amazing strategies that once my mind changed and I could actually see my mind in front of me, I saw how cunning it was and how clever it was of taking me off on different tangents, or not allowing me to go there. It was like I saw it like a woman sitting at a computer, and if something came up that was starting to rise, that she didn't feel was acceptable, she would push a few buttons like, okay, let's go over here, and would lead me away from it. Of course, once this change happened, I was able to see this person sitting at this computer doing this, and then so I was able to go in and say to her, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And her reaction was, well, I've got to stop this coming up. She didn't know any different. She wasn't doing it because she was being vindictive. She was actually thinking that she was helping. But what may have been helpful when we're children is not helpful when we're adults, because it actually stunts us, and it stops us from being able to develop into a whole person. Connecting up our head and our heart, or our head and our emotions, is vitally important, because we can't find wholeness when half of us is rejected. It's impossible. And so what I suggest that you do is, when you sit with yourself, when you go into meditation and you sit with yourself and you feel you've got this part that's stuck in the head, is to start to notice it, and to notice its tactics and why it's doing what it does. Because the way to access all of this is to not get rid of, but to soften, I suppose would be a good word for it. So to get this part to realise actually it has to let go, it has to stand back and let go of the reins, because as long as it doesn't, it can't be free. Nothing can be free if there's something that every time something comes up, it pushes it back down, using its developed method. And each of our methods will be slightly different. We're all different. Our experiences are all different, and its tactics will be different. I speak to people that they try meditation because they listen to my stuff and they really want to be able to do what I can do, yet they find that they can't drop down there, or they just literally can't access their emotional centre. Because this blanking thing happens. What it does is, it's like something emotional will try to rise, and this part of the mind will just put a kind of no, and so it can get to a certain level, but it can't rise up into the actual consciousness, because this part of the mind is frightened of it. We trained it to be like that. We trained it to keep it all down so that we can function. We do it. How many of us have actually been feeling like total shit, and then you have to go out into the world, and so we squash that down to be able to go out and function, and we put on the happy face, we put on the mask, but it's all just sort of festering underneath. And this part of the mind will be the part that will continuously try to distract you. Like, you'll think, right, I'm going to sit with myself tonight, I'm going to meditate, and then this part will go, why don't we watch telly? Why don't we do this? Why don't we, let's ring so-and-so and see if they want to go for a drink. Have a drink, have this, have that. It will do anything to stop you going in. And it's difficult to get past it. But you have to be stronger in your real mind, the part that's behind this part that's continually trying to scupper your attempts to really know yourself, to go, well, okay, I hear you, but we're going to do it anyway. And to start with, all you'll be doing is watching the resistance and watching how it's scuppering you, watching its tactics, seeing how it operates. Because the thing is, you made this part of you. We all have it, but you've constructed your own part, and only you can undo it. But the thing is, it's so familiar, and you're so used to it being there. It's such an integral part of the psyche that it's difficult to separate it from who you really are, because it's been operating for so long. It's like a song that's continuously playing in the background, and you hear it so much that you don't even notice that it's playing. And you can slip into that so easily. It's the part that will stop us when we want to do anything that will mean that we can kind of recover from our trauma and our squashed down emotions. It will come up and scuffer it over and over and over again. So, for example, you can say, right, I'm going to go on this retreat and I'm going to find myself and I'm going to do this. And then you come away and you haven't, because this part is so strong that the whole time you were there, it was in operation. And you get this feeling of frustration. Why can't I do this? Why can't I drop down? Why can't I see my stuff? Why can I not experience it? And that's the part of you that's standing in the way of the actual seeing. And, it's a tough one. It is tough, because until you can get past that, you can't connect the emotions to the thinking. So, because the emotions need to be able to come up and show you what they're holding. So it's like each thing that we've gathered through our childhood and through experiences that have happened to us, they have their own energy field. They have their own way of being and thinking and expressing. And this part of the mind, as soon as it sees one, it pushes it down, because you're not coming up here. And we don't even really notice that it's happening. We just notice we can't access. And so it's a case of getting to know that part and to get it to give up the reins. We put it there. We put it there to protect us, but it no longer needs to do the job that it's doing. But without us being able to actually address it and tell it can give in and be there with it while it gives in, it can't do it. And so it makes it very difficult to move beyond a certain level. So we can get things, we can listen to stuff and we can read stuff, and then we can connect in a kind of going out way and think, I really want that, I want to connect to that. And that part doesn't mind you doing that, because it means that you're actually looking out, not looking in. But as soon as you sort of suggest turning inwards, it will come up with loads of excuses why that is not a good idea. And, well, you don't want to do that, or, if you do that, then this might happen, and don't forget tomorrow you've got to do that. So if you do that now, it might bring something up, and then you won't be able to function properly, and people will think that you've gone mad, and it might release something terrible, and it will put you off over and over and over again, because that's the way it functions. That's the tactical way that it works. And so I suggest that what you do is when you have this feeling, right, I'm definitely want to get to the root of this, I'm going to meditate tonight, I'm going to do this, when you sit down to meditate, is just to notice what this part of the mind is doing, how it will try to distract you, how it will tell you it's not working, or you don't want to go there, or the barriers that it puts up to stop you from dropping. And it will have all different tactics. It won't only have one. It will have, if it tries one and it doesn't work, it will come in with something else. And it will continually do that until it sees through itself. It sort of can cotton on and go, oh, it's me that's doing this. It thinks it's protecting you. It thinks it's doing the right thing. And it's persistence that shows that it isn't. And it's your will to override it and to not listen to it, that will push through. Because once it sees through its own little bit of consciousness, and once it sees through itself, it can give up. It can go, okay, right, I get it. I'm actually more of a hindrance than a help. Because the thing is that all of these parts of our mind, they think they're helping, and at one point perhaps they were, but then later on they turn into a hindrance, because they just do, they're like a machine, they just do the same thing round and round and round and round again, and they will use whatever method that they can to stop you, because they think they're protecting you, but what they don't realise is that they're hindering you. And so it's about getting it to see that, and it's not an easy task, but if you can become aware of that's what's happening, and you can see it in operation, it starts to break it down, because you don't believe it anymore. So when it comes up with one of its ideas and tries to scupper your attempts, you just say, no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to allow you to push me or push this away. I was talking to someone the other day that who watches my videos, and there was one in particular that the one I made about its ego, that he couldn't watch because that part of the mind didn't want him to go there, because this part is egoish itself, and so it was frightened of going and looking at that. And so for a couple of weeks he's kind of going, oh, I'd like to watch that, and oh no, you don't want to watch that, you don't want to watch that, and actually wouldn't let him. It did in the end, and he saw through it to an extent. Could see what was happening, and he had enough gumption about him to sort of see that this was happening, realise that it wasn't constructive for him, and pushed through. But that's what it will do. It will say, oh, I don't like that, it's frightening. I find, like, some people who aren't into this, a lot of people that aren't into this, that when I tell them what I do, I see the fear come over their face, that, oh my God, this woman is suggesting that I actually look at my pain, or what I've stored, and you can see the horror, and they quickly change the subject, or they will get a little bit cross, or they will think of it as crazy. It's defence, and I don't try and push it with these people. There's absolutely no point whatsoever. I realised that pretty early on, that you can't make someone go somewhere they don't want to go. We can't do anything until we're ready for it. But if you feel that you are ready, start looking at that. And, as I've said before, if you want some help with that, get in touch. You can email me at Loobrins, Loobrins, @gmail.com. And, I'm willing to help people through that, because I just know from my own experience how difficult it is until you see through it. And the thing is, with anything, once you've seen it, it's the beginning of the end of it. And anything that's in the dark can't be understood. You have to bring something into the light and see it from a more realistic perspective before that you can undo it. So I hope that's helpful. And as I say, if you'd like to get in touch, do, and we can talk like this, because it's very unlikely that you'll be in the area that I'm in. But I'm here to help, and I want to help, because I spent so many years stuck in my mind, stuck in this disconnect between my head and my heart, and trying to kind of outrun myself, and realising eventually that I saw through it, and with the seeing through, it changed everything. And now I welcome anything that comes up in me. I mean, I don't have much these days because I've spent so much time undoing it, but I still have stuff come up. And, it's like I look at it now that I have like these little bubbles that just sort of pop up sometimes, and it's so enlightening. Everything that you see that you've been holding down and not accepting, when you see it and you bring it into the light, it's like a light bulb moment over and over again, and you go, oh right, I get that now. And sometimes it's dreadfully uncomfortable, because the things that you've pushed down because they're uncomfortable. And it's about facing that discomfort, and you can sit there and cry and feel terrible, but once you've seen it, it dismantles it. And so we have to go through the pain of things to be able to come out the other side, and to find our happiness and acceptance. So if you want to get in touch, do. And I'll write when I put the thing at the bottom, I'll write my email address on there. I don't have a website. I'm not tech savvy enough for all that old nonsense. But you can email me and get in touch. Comment below if you it's quite nice to start little discussions about these things, because a lot of this is seeing that we're not alone, because we think we are, we kind of think, well, no one else feels like I do, I shouldn't express that, or because we were told not to, quite often we're told not to express, but expressing is so important. And seeing that other people feel the way that we feel. There's nobody that's got anything that anybody else hasn't got. It's just that we're told to hide it, and we hide it. So if you want to start, comment, and see what other people say. And I hope that's useful, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.